The story opens with Emily Brown, who had her own surprise when a slime broth she just killed unexpectedly dropped a man. His name is Sato. She was confused because Sato looked like a human, but since he was a drop from killing a slime, she thought he was a piece of meat. She decided to cut him up with Sato got up scaring her. The girl jumped back, questioning if he was really a human. It seemed pretty much obvious, but the girl couldn't understand why he appeared after she killed a slime. Now both are confused because Sato couldn't understand how he dropped from a slime. The girl calls it unexpected because slimes usually drop bean sprouts. Sato thinks she's crazy and tries to get some answers and asks about slimes and drops. The girl is confused as if Sato was questioning common sense. She tells him to follow and watch what she does. He sees a level 1 slime in the room. The girl charges forward, takes a hit that loses half her HP, then smashes the slime down. He claps for her performance, wishing to clap something else. The slime disappears and drops a few bean sprouts. She explains the slimes on level 1 of Tellurium Dungeon floor drop bean sprouts. Common knowledge she weighs, but not for Sato. He looks around and starts to freak out confused. He asks if that's how bean sprouts are made. She replies with yes, pretty much everything. He gets confused with the everything part. She then clarifies. In this world, everything is a dungeon monster drop. He's confused, but decides to follow and ask her stuff. First he questions if he's still in Japan or on Earth, but the girl doesn't understand his questions and ignores him. The girl continues moving forward and killing more slimes for bean sprouts, so he decides to ask why she isn't looking for other monsters. She explains that only slimes exist on the first level of this dungeon. He questions about going to level 2 or above. She reveals she's weak and she needs to level up. She gets impressed that people can level up. To be fair, at this point, anyone knows they're in another world if they see a slime, not Sato. The girl shows him a frame in the dungeon walls, explaining it to be a status board. If he touches it, he can see his stats rated from F to A. He realizes that it seems like a game and how the stats are rated. He then notices there's a second page. She explains that it's a drop stat page. This is the part he gets confused. What does it mean when the stats are high? She explains that high stats make it easier to get drops and increases the drop quantity. She claims to have a high plant drop rate which is rated high as hell. You know, and that's why she's getting bean sprouts. He decides to check his stats just to find out that he should be ashamed to be in another world. His max level is 1 and all his stats are F. She clarifies this not max level, which is obvious as hell, and they decide to check his second page. Well, she can only describe it as sad. He loses all his motivation to live here while the girl is counting the alphabet. Apparently this girl doesn't know that S-rated stats are actually the highest and that's all his drop rate stats. He thinks it may be different here and decides to try it out. He looks around for a weapon and the girl lets him use her hammer. He almost breaks his arm while dropping it to the floor because it's too heavy. The girl apologizes and gives him a bamboo spear. They then notice a slime heading toward them and Sato tries to deal with it. He manages to land a hit after some tries and the drop is crazy. It's a huge amount of bean sprouts. He realized it was a lot more than what Emily had ever seen before. He then realized that he was right S above A. He asked if she has ever seen someone with an S stat, but she replies that they don't exist since both are feeling hungry. The girl makes a bean sprout soup to enjoy, but when Sato tries it, tears start falling from his eyes. The girl panicked, thinking it tastes bad, but explains that it's been a long time since he could enjoy a warm meal with someone else. He starts to remember his life as an office worker. He always worked extra unpaid hours and ate only cold stuff from a store. In the end, his health got ruined and he ended up in the hospital. He tried to compensate, working even harder, and ended up taking a nap at work. And then he woke up in a different world. After becoming a slime drop item, he tears down, realizing that he worked for nothing and that his life was hell. The girl tries to comfort him, telling him that his efforts will always pay off if he works hard, and the longer it takes, the bigger is the reward. The girl then mentions that the best way to do it is to work hard and then be rewarded when they are reborn in their next life. Sato thanks her for comforting him and decides to stay positive in this life. He wants to find a place to stay and the girl mentions the town right outside the dungeon. She then mentions that he should go now because she's about to also go to sleep. He's confused and asks if she's going to sleep inside the dungeon. She explains that she doesn't have money to rent an in-room because her drop rate is low, so she sleeps inside the dungeon, but she dreams that one day she could have an apartment. Sato gets up ready to leave, and she hands him the bamboo sphere. He needs something to defend himself, and if he needs to find her in the future then he can come to the level 1 dungeon. He asks her name and she replies that she's Emily. Sato moves to the city and starts to understand the basics of this world. The currency is pilus, and the sprouts that he got from the slime are worth 200 pilus. Renting a room costs 2,000 pilus per night, and a dissimilar to ramen is 500 pilus. He checked the prices of everything he wants and then goes inside the dungeon. He kills then several slimes, realizing how lucky he is when he realized that he was level 1. He thought that he was living in hell again, but the drop rate stat is so overpowered that it compensates for it. After 3 days, he comes back to Emily and takes her to an old house. She's confused, but he explains that he rented it for 20,000 pilus a month, the amount he earned in the last few days. She looks around, finding that it's an amazing place, but he suddenly hands through the house. She doesn't understand what's going on, but he tells that this is her new house and he will be covering her rent. The girl claims she cannot accept it, but he tells is his repayment for the soup. He thanks her again for the warm, delicious soup. The girl almost tears down with those words and accepts living there. She notices the injuries on his hands and he explains he's been fighting non-stop. She then makes her decision. She says that she will be making soup for the rest of her life and wants him to enjoy it with her. He then realizes she's asking him to live with her and accepts the deal. From then on, Sato continues his routine of killing slimes and selling the bean sprouts, but the price isn't that great. He only gets about 2,000 pilus. He considers going to the second level and finds out that it drops carrots. The receptionist named Ursa talks about a new dungeon that appeared recently. She explains that sometimes dungeons appear and disappear out of nowhere, and that there's a group investigating the drop items. Sato then says goodbye to her and she takes the chance to ask if he wants to have a drink with her. As you expect, he says not this time. He heads back home to Emily, she happily welcoming him back. He talks about the new dungeon, but she says that apparently there are no drop items there. He decides to explore it. Surprised that nobody is there, he guesses that maybe it doesn't drop anything at all. Suddenly a skeleton appears and tries to attack him. A stone pillar falls on top of the skeleton. The monster disappears, and Sato notices a seed on the floor. He picks it up when it disappears. Suddenly Sato hears a message mentioning that his max health points have been increased by 1. Sato decides that he will continue farming the dungeon until all his health stat reaches S. When he managed to, he told Emily that he was going to the level 2 dungeon to find out how strong he is, but Emily is making a strange, sad face. She reveals that she's worried about him. He worked to exhaustion to rent a house for her, and then after finding the new dungeon he's been farming all night, she tells him to come back at night and rest at home instead of being reckless. Sato remembers that in his past life he didn't have anyone who worried about him, but he now has, so he promises to come back early. He goes to the level 2 dungeon and gets hit by a slime, but he only took just a small amount of damage. After getting hit a few times he manages to kill the slime, and as previously mentioned, it drops a carrot, a huge carrot. Another slime appears, and when it's almost getting close to Sato, it's hit by a fireball. The trio of guys who need a nice punch appear and start mocking him after finding out Sato is level 1. I guess they forgot to compare carrot sizes because Sato is bigger. The guys decide to leave and Sato feels a presence behind him. There's a beast woman, a bunny girl in that fancy outfit behind him. Of course, Sato asks the most important question. Are those ears real? The girl doesn't reply. She says she hates level 1 people and hits his head. Sato is confused and becomes even more when she turns around and walks away. He returns home after farming and tells Emily that people bought his carrots for 8,000 pilus. They think this is easy money until someone knocks on the door. Yes, the bunny girl is back and smacks his head again, telling him she hates low levels. She then starts flicking her body and tells him in a seductive way that she loves him. That brings the episode to an end. The story continues with Emily asks Soda who's the rabbit girl, but he also doesn't know her. He questions if funny girls live in this world just like regular people. The bunny girl karate chops Soda's head but doesn't understand how he took no damage. She gets on her group members and almost kills him with her karate chop. She tells Soda that she used the same amount of strength, but Soda did not take any damage. She questions why he didn't take damage despite being low level. Soda thinks it's probably because his health points is already rank S, but he asks why she came there. She pulls out a carrot and tells that she got it from the dungeon. Soda then remembers that when he and Emily came back one of the carrots fell off, but they didn't see it. Turns out the rabbit girl stole it from them. The rabbit girl is a carrot pervert and wants more of Soda's amazing carrots. She notices Emily not only has carrots in her arms but also on their table. She says that she loves carrots and starts drooling. Emily asks if the girl wants to eat with them, and of course a rabbit girl cannot refuse a good carrot. Emily shows how she will be cooking the carrots to make noodles, and the rabbit girl starts salivating. It's finally time to eat, but first Soda asks if her ears are real. She ignores his questions and starts digging in, stating that Emily must be a god because her dish is delicious. Soda also praises her cooking, and Emily mentions she prepared enough for them to repeat. After they finish stuffing their stomachs, the rabbit girl gets up and prepares to leave. Emily says that she can visit them anytime, and Soda gets confused. He doesn't understand what just happened, especially because the rabbit girl didn't even tell them her name. Emily, on the other hand, simply thanks Soda. Before she moved there, she had always been alone, but now she's able to enjoy happy moments where she can eat with other people. Soda remembers his previous life and thinks that he was the same as her. He always ate alone at home because he didn't have a family. Emily says that from now on they should eat all their meals together, and Soda agrees. He returns to the Nihonium dungeon, where he upgraded his health points to S rank. He steps into the second level because he wants to become stronger in this world. He was able to get a warm and cozy life, and he wants to be able to protect it. This new level has zombies instead of skeletons. He tries to kill the zombie by stabbing it with his bamboo spear, but it breaks. The zombie punches him, but Soda finds that it doesn't hurt him because of his health point rank. He starts boxing the zombie and kicks him against the wall, which was enough to defeat it and drop another seed. After catching his breath, Soda picks it up, curious about which stat will be upgraded on this new floor. The seed disappears just like most fathers as usual, but at least it increases Soda's strength. Soda is happy that this is his new stat until he hears a noise. It's the bunny girl again. He asks what she is doing there, but she karate chops him again. She asks what was that seed drop Soda got. Soda gets worried because everybody thinks this dungeon doesn't drop anything. He knows he's the only one who can get drops because of his S rank drop rate. He doesn't want to reveal his secret, but the bunny girl is staring at him. She suddenly changes the topic and asks if he has carrots. That's when Soda realizes she only cares about carrots. She tells that if he doesn't have carrots, then he gets scared, but she uses a seductive pose and asks dead or carrot. He gets annoyed, yet she only replies that this dungeon doesn't drop carrots. She wants to go to Tellurium dungeon and get her carrots, making him promise that he will do it later. She gets extremely happy and disappears. He realizes that she's easy to deal with. He managed to upgrade his strength from F rank to D rank in the second level of the Nihonium dungeon. He then killed slimes with his fists to get a lot more carrots than usual. He then heads back to the trading center and sees the rabbit girl waiting for him. He approaches her and gives her a carrot, but everyone around thinks he's crazy. Nobody usually gets near her, because she will literally kill anyone who gives her low-quality carrots. They simply don't know Soda has an S-rank carrots. He's impressed that she simply digs in, and Urza asks him if he knows the rabbit girl. Soda explains he doesn't, he simply gave her some carrots and now she likes him. Everyone around, including Urza, is shocked, and she tells Soda that she will buy his carrots for double the price. Soda is confused, but Urza explains everything. The rabbit girl's name is Eve and she's a strong adventurer. Turns out her killer move is the karate chop named Excalibur that can cut a boulder in half. Urza also says that Eve is a carrot gourmet and that her catchphrase dead or carrot comes from killing people who gave her low-ranked carrots. And since you've approved Soda's ranked carrot, then every carrot he drops will be considered a high-quality product that will be sold for a higher price. Usually got 8,000 Piro per carrot, but now he gets 15,000. He usually drops 30 carrots per day, so that's basically 450,000 a month. He tries to thank you for approving his carrot, but she's already down on her knees asking for more carrots instead. Soda says that he will get her more carrots tomorrow, and Eve replies that she hates him. She tries to karate chop him, but she simply grabs her hand. He manages to convince her that he will get her more carrots tomorrow, and she leaves. The next day, Soda and Emily manage to get a bag full of carrots from the dungeon. He tells her that he will just take a quick look around the dungeon, and he ends up seeing two adventurers fighting a slime. He realizes that they're clearly exhausted from overworking and can barely stand up. Their leader appears, and the two hold the slime in place for the leader to defeat it. The leader wants to continue hunting, and the two ask for a little rest because they haven't done it in the past 2 days. The old man calls them weak and spouts out random stuff. When he was young, he could spend weeks inside the dungeon without resting, and that's how he got strong. It's clearly BS. He's just exploring young newbie adventurers. The newbies explain they haven't slept, but the old man says that this is helping them get stronger. The two are literally being brainwashed and believe in his random BS. They get up and continue while Soda thinks this is the same situation he was in his previous life. His boss would give him impossible tasks and said it was for their own sakes. But in reality, they were being exploited. Emily approaches Soda from behind and asks if he's fine. He dismisses it and she tells him to take a break to eat lunch. Everything looks great until they hear footsteps. It's Eve running toward them because she wants to eat Emily's lunch. They all share the meal and relax for a bit until the old exploited appears and comments that Soda's group is a bunch of slackers. He tells the newbies to not become like them. Of course, he's just increasing the brainwashing level. He says that if they're lazy like Sato, their drops will be of low quality. It simply cuts a carrot in half and throws it into the newbies' mouths, and of course the two love it. The old man tries to confront Eve, but he's too weak to deal with her, so he decides to leave his pets. She returns to Soda and Emily and continues to eat her carrot. Soda thanks for her help, but she simply karate chops him while saying that she wants carrots every day. Soda and Emily return to the commercial center to sell their carrots. Soda mentions they had many more carrots, but they couldn't carry them all. Urza asked if they didn't have a magic cart. Emily pointed toward one and Urza explained that he can carry more items with a magic card, this way improving his efficiency. He decides to buy one and Urza told him where the store was. They step inside and ask where the little girl's parents are. She says that her father is mudding on the back. She calls her father, who welcomes them. Soda tells the man that he wants a magic card and the man gives him his recommendation, which costs 10 million Piro. Soda and Emily cannot believe how expensive it is. The man says that they can buy a normal one for 2 or 3 million, but they're playing. The guy loves to mod and makes expensive carts that come with amazing features like a monster detection system. Soda realizes he cannot afford a cart right now and must save their money for a while. They head back home until they suddenly hear a guy shouting on the street. They hear that a stray is coming, and Soda asks Emily what that is. She explains that it's a monster created from drops. They can only happen if you leave the drop behind without any human around. Turns out this stray is literally Gorilla. The adventure is start running away to evacuate the city, something Soda doesn't understand. Emily explains that nobody wants to deal with strays because they're stronger than normal monsters, plus they don't drop any items. Soda notices the magic card seller and his daughter are also running away. The seller tells that Soda should also run away, but Soda suddenly hears a scream. Urza tripped when she tries to run away and Gorilla is approaching her. Gorilla tries to punch her, but Soda uses his strength to block the attack. Eve and her party come to help deal with Gorilla and Soda helps Urza get up. She's okay, but the city is being destroyed. Soda then decides that he will kill Gorilla because he doesn't want the city to be completely destroyed. Emily is also ready to help him and the two get ready to act. Soda asks Eve's group to keep Gorilla in place, but they don't believe he can deal with it. Gorilla picks up a boulder to throw at Soda, but Emily blocks it with her hammer. Eve and her group manage to block and restrain Gorilla's movements. This enables Soda to headbutt the giant gorilla, punching and destroying the gorilla. The locals thank Soda for protecting their city and saving their lives. Soda feels satisfied because nobody ever praised him for anything he's done in his previous life. Suddenly, he hears a drop sound. He's confused because Emily said strays don't drop items, but at the same time he remembers that the other dungeons shouldn't be supposed to drop anything, but it drops seats. He gets close to a light and is shocked to see a super rare drop item. That brings the episode to an end. The drop item turns out to be a gun and bullets from Sato's real world. He picks it up and questions how he got a weapon that shouldn't exist in that world. Plus he got it from a stray, a monster that shouldn't drop anything. He decides to use it and goes to Nihonium Dungeon. He first checks his stats, everything at F except for his C strength and S rank health. His max level is still 1, but at least he's improving well in this dungeon. He returns to the second floor to test if his gun works. He senses a zombie approaching him and shoots it. He finds it amazing that it works on monsters just like it should. More zombies appear, but Sato's aiming skills are still trash. He either misses his shots or barely kills the zombies until he notices that there's a small problem. He doesn't know how to get more bullets. He reloads the gun and thinks if they will drop from strays too, and since he doesn't know yet, he cannot pretend to be Rambo and waste them. He returns to the slime dungeon with Emily, but the slime evades Emily's attack. Luckily, Sato manages to hit the slime instead of the girl. They make a quick break and Emily says that his weapon is pretty amazing despite never seeing one before. Sato explains that it helps him a lot, and he upgraded his strength to rank B because of it. He asks if she wants to check the third floor after their meal, and she agrees. Sato thinks that he can go to other places or floors once he gets enough stats. Sato finds this life pretty relaxing, but they now need to move to the 3rd floor. He asks if Emily has ever been here and she replies no. She only knows the names of the monsters and what they drop. They will be fighting cocker slimes to get pumpkins. Sato is annoyed to fight slimes, but he's anticipating Emily's new meals. They move forward and turns out the slimes are cockroaches. Sato finds it disgusting and mentions that girls would run away screaming. Suddenly, he hears a loud noise. He looks behind to see that Emily just smashed her hammer on the ground. He tells her that she doesn't need to go that hard, but turns out Emily became a complete psycho. She says the tragedy will grow if they don't deal with the enemy. Of course, Sato gets scared. Emily says that she won't let any slime get away, and Sato notices a dark aura around her. She starts smashing the floor with a menacing laugh, but luckily she returns to normal after getting her pumpkin. Sato then makes his best decision ever to return to the 2nd floor and get carrots instead. They start walking back to the 2nd floor, and Sato thinks they must hurry because he doesn't want to see the version of Emily again. Emily suddenly stops walking and Sato notices something is wrong. He looks to the floor and notices a hole where hundreds of cockroaches are coming out. Emily turns the psycho mode on and unleashes a stronger dark aura than before, for last words to Sato or that he might never regain humanity back. Sato tries to deal with the cockroaches by shooting them and begs Emily to let him take care of them. Emily's twisted side becomes more menacing, making him realize that he cannot miss a shot. Luckily, he manages to use 100% of his brain to concentrate and defeats Emily. Returns to normal, happy to see that Sato's pumpkins are huge. The only problem is that they have too many pumpkins and they can barely take them out. Emily turns dark mode again, saying that the bugs will spawn again. He tries to calm her down when suddenly their pumpkins get pushed away. Turns out it's Eve asking for today's carrots. Emily's sweet mode returns and Sato thinks Eve just saved him. They take the pumpkins outside and decided to make several trips to sell them. After a few runs, Sato notices some pumpkins were eaten by animals. He thinks that he cannot sell those until he sees Emily's demonic eyes again. She says the cockroaches are here and smashes her hammer against the floor. Cockroaches come out of the hole and Sato gets confused because they're out of the dungeon. Emily gets more intense, but Sato tries to step forward and kill every cockroaches. He shoots some of them, but runs out of bullets. Emily is going crazy, so he decides to go old school by using his shoes. He manages to kill every single one of them and Emily apologizes. She explains she turns into someone else when she sees cockroaches. He says that it's not her fault and suddenly hears the drop item sound. He looks to the side and sees bullets on the floor. He gets confused and asks her about what happened. She explained that if he leaves dropped items behind where there are people around, then monster will spawn. Sato remembers that Emily explained the same thing when they encountered the stray, but he forgot about it. He apologizes for making her wait for the last batch of pumpkins, but she doesn't mind. Sato gets lost in his thoughts about the possibility of forcing strays to spawn and thinks he might get more bullets. Urza is trying to invite him on a date, but since he's too focused on his thoughts, he doesn't listen to it and leaves after thanking her. He puts a carrot on the ground and hides behind a tree. After some time of waiting, something strange happens. Yes, Eve spawned to eat the carrot. Sato tries to explain what he was trying to do, but Eve ignores him. He gets annoyed and decides to try again and again because Eve ate 9 of his carrots. This time it succeeds, and the carrot transforms into a slime. Sato shoots it, and the slime drops 10 bullets. He rushes to his drop and thinks he's the only person who gets drops from strays because of his S-rank drop race. He suddenly gets an idea what will happen if he tries to create a stray from the seeds that increases stats. He returns to Nihonium Dungeon to test his idea, but there's a problem. The seed vanishes when he touches it. He thinks that he might get something from turning monsters with no drops into strays since his health is already rank, as he thought he could carry the seeds back without them vanishing away, but he was wrong. He decides to return to Emily and work on his drops. Suddenly a skeleton appears and they start wrestling. Sato kicks him through the dungeon entrance and thinks it could turn into a stray, but the skeleton vanishes midair without leaving any drop. He heads back to Urza to learn more about it. She explains monsters disappear if they leave the dungeon, otherwise they would have strays all over the place. She also explains monsters can also disappear if they enter another dungeon floor. She finds it surprising that Sato doesn't know about it, despite being a strong adventurer. She continues complimenting him just to find out he's completely ignoring her and got another idea. He returns to the dungeon entrance and waits for a skeleton to appear. He then throws the skeleton outside and shoots it while it's midair. His plan works and he manages to drop something. Sato now thinks that he only needs to kill it outside its floor to count as a strain, and the drop becomes different, it's a bullet. The system informs that he got a freezing bullet. He decides to test it right away on a tree. He then watches the tree frozen inside a crystal of ice. He thinks that this bullet will allow him to have multiple uses. He gets more bullets and returns to the slime dungeon. He can now use the bullet to freeze the slimes, and Emily deals the final blow. She thinks that it's amazing and asks what his skill was. He explains that he can freeze whatever he shoots. He also says it's hard to get those bullets, so he cannot use many of them. Emily thinks they're valuable, and Sato replies that he will use them in emergencies. They spend their whole day getting drops and return home at night, but they find two people arguing on their way back. Sato tells them to let him pass through, but the old man tells him to pull up some cargo. Emily looks down and notices a wagon. Sato thinks he can probably do it if they find him a way to get down, but the girl tells him to not do it. She says that it's been a while since it fell and that it should turn into a stray. The girl also explains the wagon is loaded with drops from troublesome monsters, and she plans to burn it, but the old man won't let her do it. He hired her to protect him, but this all happened. The old man is a merchant and just cares about his profit, while the girl is thinking about everyone's safety. The old man reveals she's fired and tries to attack her. She manages to dodge it, and they see an aura around the old man and the mask. She explains that it's a stray from the wagon. It's a monster called Femini, who doesn't have a body, so they possess humans. Sato thinks he can do something and tries to shoot it. It surprisingly works and drops some bullets. The girl tells them to take the old man and run. Sato asks what she's planning to do, and she explains the wagon is full of Femini. If they don't do something, the monsters will split and head into different directions. She plans to jump down, so the monsters can possess her body. She explains this is her responsibility because she was hired as the escort. Sato remembers the time he couldn't help his friends because he was selfish and decides to help her. He decides to reload his gun with freezing bullets and shoots the wagon. He manages to freeze the whole area, giving Emily a chance to jump down and smash everything with her hammer. The girl thanks him for saving everyone and they return. They decide to check Emily's stats first and find out she reached level 20 in one go. They think it's because she dealt the final blow to the Feminis. Emily replies that it's all thanks to Sato, and mentions that more good things will happen if she stays with him. Sato tries to dismiss it, and the two realize they feel the same way. Things continue after the next few days. Sato decided to explore the 4th level of the Tellulu dungeon. Upon getting there, they noticed a strange slime. Emily explains this is a rare monster. Sato is confused, allowing the monster to try and flee, but he uses his freezing bullet to stop him and finishes it off with a normal one. But the drop item seems quite strange. It's not food. Emily even states this is the first time seeing a rare monster dropping anything. Since it looks like a necklace, Sato decides to give it to Emily. She blushes, thinking he's declaring his feelings. She says she will treasure it and that she's happy. That's until Sato states that she can now make more money for them. Her romantic moment ended and she is still confused. Turns out Sato only gave the necklace to her because it will double her drop rate. She gets mad and starts hitting him. He led her to misunderstand the whole situation. Yet Sato is the typical Japanese guy who doesn't understand what's going on. The normal type of slimes in this dungeon is bat slimes. Yes, I guess Rimuru is the final boss. Emily Hammer is 4 down, and she drops a bamboo shoots. She still cannot believe this double drop rate item. They decide to return home, where Sato notices her preparing their meal. He wants to help her, but she refuses to. He thinks that it must be rough for her to have a small kitchen, and tells her that he's thinking about moving out. Emily thinks he's trying to say that he will leave her alone. Sato explains they're making enough money to find a nicer place. Emily understands, and deep down she's sad. She gets lost in her thoughts and doesn't listen to Sato asking which place she would like to live in, until she thinks about his question and asks if she can go with him. Sato explains she will go with him, but they need to save a bit more money. She returns to the normal cutie, Emily, and tells him to not overwork. He smiles at her, mentioning he won't, and gets all hyped up because he plans to get more bamboo shoots tomorrow and get money for their new home. Sato then heads to the trading center to sell his bamboo shoots, but Urza mentions they're hard to appraise. Suddenly a hottie calls Sato and asks if she can have his bamboo shoots. He almost calls her mommy, but he replies that she can have one. The girl takes one and throws it up, followed by several moves that peel and slice the bamboo shoot. They all fall into a plate with sauce. The girl then gives it a taste and almost goes into Food Wars mode. Sato thinks it tastes bad, but the girl is going mad. Despite being wrong, it's not bitter, it's juicy and sweet. Feel free to imagine whatever you want, JK. She says she never had a bamboo shoot like this before. She even cries while mentioning it's like a rare monster of flavor. She asks Sato to sell her all the bamboo shoots, but he only cares about one thing. Who the hell is she? Urza tells him to sell the bamboo shoots to the girl, so Sato accepts the deal. The girl states that she cannot even give a correct price for its flavor and asks him to accept something as her gratitude. Sato thinks she's going to pay him 1 million or something, yet she only pays 20,000 pilos. He's as disappointed as my parents are and thinks that must be a high price for some bamboo shoots. Urza then explains to Sato that girl is Eric Macy, basically the Gordon Ramsay in their world. If she approves this stuff, then people will pay a high value for it. If she doesn't, you're an idiot sandwich. With this opportunity, Urza decides to ask Sato to sign an exclusive contract with their trading center. Sato is confused, yet she explains that his bamboo shots will become famous in the city, so she wants the rights to sell them as a branded product. So does bamboo shoots. He thinks for a while, yep, that's cool, but are they even worth high value? Urza gets close with a big yes, and even mentions that she will pay a signing bonus. Sato agrees and decides to trust her as a business partner. After that, Sato returns to Nihonium Dungeon to increase his strength stat. He's happy that it's also almost reaching rank S until he notices someone there. A skeleton is moving toward her, and Sato tells her to be careful. Turns out she has a party of 3 men to restrain with the skeleton while she gives it the killing blow. The skeleton's head flies into a magic cart, making Sato confused. An old man comes to Sato telling him to not get in their way because Princess Margaret is working. Sato is confused, but in this world everything is possible. The old man mentions she's using an air box. Sato doesn't understand, but the old man explains, monsters sometimes don't drop anything when they're killed. But turns out that according to recent research, they're actually dropping errors. So basically they're there to scam people. Their whole operation is to kill a monster and drop the air. They then put the air in a box and sell it, and the cherry on top is that they can advertise it as the Princess Air. Sato is impressed with this business model. Who would have thought about selling air? Sato then asks about the magic cart, and the old man explains it allows them to carry a lot of air boxes at once and avoid making several trips. Sato understands it makes life way easier if you wanted to get one. But he needs to talk first with Emily because it's a bit expensive after getting home. Sato explains to Emily that he's unsure about getting a new house or a magic cart first. Emily replies they should be getting the magic cart first because it will be more efficient to carry their drops and it will allow them to get money faster for their new home. Sato agrees, but he's still a bit off because they won't be able to move out soon. Emily mentions she doesn't care because she likes her life, him, and their little house. With this, they decide to go to the magic cart shop tomorrow, but after arriving at the store they hear Olga, the little girl, is crying. They rush inside and ask what's going on. Olga then mentions that her father hasn't come home yet. Sato is worried and asks some questions. Olga mentions her father told her he was going to pick some flowers. Emily mentions the only place where they can get flower drops is in a dungeon called Arsenic. With this info, Sato decides to go to that dungeon to help Olga's father. Upon getting there, Emily explains the monsters on the first floor are called Dan Rocks and they don't move or attack. He thinks that will make it faster to find Olga's father, but turns out the monsters are blocking their way. He tries to shoot them, but the bullet bounces off. Turns out that only Emily and her sore hammer can defeat the rocks. She quickly kills all rocks and drops the flowers. They hurry up and try to find the old man, who turns out to be snoring. Sato gives a slap to wake him up, but it doesn't work because he's sleeping like a rock. That's until Dark Emily comes back to life. She's so mad this dwarf made his daughter so work just for him to take a nap. She tries to hammer him down, but he wakes up and asks what's going on, yet he only makes Emily angrier. When he mentions that he was taking an amazing nap, he ends up apologizing and Sato asks what the dwarf is doing here. He explains he's here to get parts for his new magic cart prototype. He got some of the materials but couldn't get the last ones. But the dander rocks blocked his path and he couldn't go anywhere, so he took a nap. The dwarf tells Sato to look up where he sees a flying rock. He explains that they're rare monsters who are light enough to fly, so he can't reach them. So Sato has an idea, a dumb one. He makes Emily climb into his shoulders and complains about her weight. I'm joking, it's her hammer's weight. She then smashes the rare monster with her hammer and they drop the flower. The dwarf needs to be fair. It would be easier to use a freezing bullet on the monster and it would fall into the floor. The dwarf then goes outside and decides to turn the bloody drop into a stray monster. After a while the drop transforms into a monster and tries to fly away. The dwarf can't catch it, but Sato is now stealing my idea to use a freezing bullet. Guess what? It works! The dwarf is happy as hell and decides to return to work on his new magic card just to offer it to Sato and Emily, who tried to refuse because it's expensive. The dwarf explains he's giving it to Sato because he protected the town against the stray. Olga tells Sato to take care of the cart, making him accept the gift. The next day they return to the dungeon to kill monsters and place the drops inside the cart. They quickly fill it until max capacity and Emily mentions they got gathered twice the amount of bamboo shoots than usual because of it. Sato then decides to sell the drops to Urza while Emily decides to go home to prepare dinner upon getting to the trading center. Sato notices Urza in a tight situation. Turns out there's a guy who claims that he brought enough drop items to get paid 10,000 pilos, but Urza claims the value is less than that. The guy is aggressive to everyone and even tries to scammers of her 20,000 as compensation for her mistake. She refuses to, mentioning he didn't bring enough items to get the value he's asking for. The guy decides to punch her, but Sato cannot let a girl take a hit, so he shoots the guy with a freezing bullet. He tells the guy that Urza would never lie about the price and decides to prove it. He takes out all the bamboo shoots he stored in his magic card and goes to Urza. She gives him the guy's items and tells him the base price of each. He sets up the price of each item on his cart stores. This unique cart can calculate with precision the total price of its store items, and turns out Urza's price was right. The guy accuses Sato of helping the trading center run a scam and tries to punch him. Sato stops the fist and tells the guy he needs to take a nap. He slaps the guy so hard that he flies against the wall. Urza thanked him for his help, mentioning he's been helping her since he arrived there, but she doesn't want to depend on him. Sato mentions everyone needs help. She helps him every day by buying his items with a smile and she cheers for his success. So if he has the chance to, he will protect her. Hearing those words, Urza gets the courage to get near him and kiss him. Of course he doesn't understand what's going on and freaks out after getting kissed. She then heads out to continue her work. For the following days, Sato and Emily return to the dungeon to get more items. He mentions that before they used to make trips to only her 20,000 pilos, but now each of their trips net them 10 times more than before. They make so much money that now they can buy a new home. They return and start packing their things. Emily mentions it's a bit sad and Sato mentions all their memories, so to then decides to keep the current house in case they miss it and decide to come here again. Emily thinks it's expensive to rent 2 houses at the same time, but Sato mentions he's been working hard for this. She accepts his decision and they move on to a more luxurious and spacious place. The only problem is that Eve followed them. Turns out a rabbit can sniff Sato's carrot from farm. That brings the episode to an end. Things continue with Emily spent her time having fun in their new house making dinner. Meanwhile, Sato was back at Nihonium, grinding out to improve his stats. His new opponents this time are mummies, which consume many bullets for him to take them down. In fact, he spent all the bullets already and needs to get more. He focuses on picking up the seed and finds out that it increases his speed stat. Suddenly another mummy appears and Sato is forced into a direct confrontation. He uses his strength to hold off the mummy and kicks it to push it back, but turns out that his kick cuts the mummy in half. He realizes this is the result of having S-rank strength and thinks this is more effective than spending bullets. After a whole morning of training, his speed increased from F to rank E. He returns to the trading center and is approached by a random guy. Sato is confused and asks who the hell is he. Turns out this is Nep, a random playboy guy who's living the dream. Of course Sato is jealous. Nap is not only good looking, but he also has a cute girl on each arm. Sato asks what Nep wants and finds out the playboy wants to arm wrestle him. Sato is confused. But Ned explains he's interested in Sato's power because he heard about Sato dealing with the guy who tried to attack Urza. The guy puts himself in position and asks for the match, then annoys Sato even more because Nep is also confident in himself, so he decides he must get justice and vengeance. He accepts it with his deepest voice and both lock hands as the start signal begins. Sato understands that Nep is also strong. Their duel seems even none wanted to bulge, but so does swings his arm and wins. This impresses everyone around and the girls get shocked to see their playboy loose. Nep laughs it out and says that Sato is impressive. Sato also tells him the same and realizes that Nep is the leader of the strongest group in the city. Nep asks for another round, but Sato rejects because they already created a new scene. The guy gets disappointed and gets up to leave. Suddenly he tries to punch Sato, who not only manages to block it with his fists, but also projects some backward. Sato gets up and asks what this is all about. That gets his ass off the ground, calls Sato impressive, and asks him to join his family. Sato is confused, especially because everyone is talking about him being invited as the leader of the strongest family. Of course, Sato turned him down. Nobody wants to see a playboy in his everyday life. He returns home and tells Emily, who doesn't understand why he rejected it. He explains he doesn't want to join any group. He enjoys his life where he can live beside her. She blushes, happy to hear those words. That's until he hears a voice calling him a cocky low-level. That's Eve mashing on the wrong carrots. Emily still thinks it's impressive that Nep scouted Sato, and guesses that it must have been because he helped many people. She calls him a hero, making Sato blush. He returns to the Nihonium dungeon the next day, feeling pretty happy and cocky that she called him a hero. He then meets the princess's bodyguards. Yes, the ones who have been scamming people by selling air. He notices some boxes, and the guy explains that's their newest company scam, the Pandora box. The guy says Sato came at the right time and tells him to look toward the princess. He watches the princess defeat a skeleton, and then another guy uses the box to automatically suck the dropped items, you guessed it, air. The box even displays the face of the person who defeated the monster, and at that moment the princess's budget image appears. The guy explains to Sato that some people don't believe their hair is really harvested by the princess and still trying to guess why someone would buy that. But yeah, this is the way they found to fix that problem. He asks if Sato is an adventurer and gives him 5 boxes, telling him to use them well, and in case you ask why he shouldn't need that, I can tell the boxes are empty, so Sato wants to use them to collect his drop items. He uses the boxes to collect the seeds and take them outside the dungeon. His plan is to turn those seeds into strays and then kill the monsters to get his bullets. After successfully defeating the monsters, he finds it impressive that now he can easily get freezing bullets with this method, but that only gives him another idea. He rushes back inside with the boxes to get more monster seeds, and then heads out to the other dungeon to meet Emily. When she arrives, she's a bit confused because he's aiming at a box and asks what's he doing. Suddenly the seeds turn into strays, revealing a zombie and a mummy. Sato shoots the zombie and punches the mummy, getting rewarded with 2 new kinds of bullets. One is a fire bullet, but the other one impresses him even more. He thinks he can use the second bullet more times, and that he needs to get more of those. He collects all types of special bullets with this strategy, but he still has one last box remaining. He tries to finish the job, but he feels a powerful chill when he touches the box. Emily explains that it must be because a magic storm is coming. Sato is confused and heads to the trading center where he asks Urza about the magic storm. She's confused because he doesn't know about it and decides to explain it. She tells him that it's a rare natural phenomenon where people cannot use magic in town when it happens. She also says that if the magic storm is big enough, then its effects will be felt from far away and even stop them from using magic in dungeons. She explains that this magic storm is big enough to affect dungeons, so people stay at home to take a day off, but heavily affects the economy because if people don't drop stuff in dungeons, then they cannot sell or buy anything. Suddenly they hear a guy begging for help because his comrade is still inside a dungeon called Silicon. Sato asks Urza about Silicon and she explains it's a dungeon for magic users. The guy begs everyone to help him save his comrade, but they refuse to. Sato is confused, asking why they shouldn't be taking the day off. Urza explains the guy's group is new in the city and probably found out about the magic storm when it's too late. The guy falls to his knees crying, accepting the death of his comrades. Sato is confused because nobody is willing to help them. Nep shows up out of nowhere, commenting it's tragic, but in reality he just wanted to check if Sato changed his decision. He gets a big fat no in his face and mentions that Silicon's monsters are so hard to defeat that he doesn't even get near it. Urza explains to the confused Sato that monster is in Silicon don't take damage for non-magical attacks. So Nep also refuses to help because he doesn't feel like helping a stranger, but not for Sato. Emily's words when calling him a hero comes to his mind, and he decides to step forward and help the poor guy. After a quick explanation, Sato rushes inside the silicon dungeon, aiming to save the girls on level 3. He sees a monster on his way, and he uses a fire bullet to defeat it and get a cabbage. He shoots the cabbage with a freezing spell to stop it from turning into a stray, and continues his way. Despite the several numbers of monsters on his way, Sato doesn't stop and shoots them while moving forward. Meanwhile, Emily returns to the trading center, looking for Sato, but the safe explains the situation to her. Upon reaching the 3rd level, Sato is attacked by a new monster, but he repeats the usual process. He finally manages to find Rose, the girl's comrade, but she seems heavily injured. He wants to take care of her, but another monster appears. Sato decides to shoot it, but he's out of special bullets. Meanwhile, Emily and Eve are rushing their way into Silicon to help him. Of course, Eve still wants his special carrot, but Emily feels something different about Sato. He's more than that. He reminds her of her mother. That's the biggest friend zone I ever heard. She remembers the time when she had ventured in the dungeons with her mother. She always thought her mother was strong, and she always cared for and helped others. Of course, she first needed to scold, lecture, and then have fun with them, but one day they found a stray dragon inside the dungeon. Family was worried about her mother, but she ensured her daughter while telling her she could handle it. Her mother managed to defeat the dragon, but she fell after the fight. She told Emily to not cry and carry her outside. Emily used her small body to carry her mother out. Trying to find a way to save her, her mother asked if Emily was going to go inside dungeons in the future and warned her to not be reckless. In the end, she passed away before they reached the city. That's why Sato reminds her of her mother, because she always saw her mother as a hero. He's done so much to help other people and she thinks it's her turn to help him. Inside the dungeon, Sato is trying to run from monsters while carrying Rose. He tries to shoot them with regular bullets, but it doesn't work. He suddenly hears Emily's voice and gets happy, but doesn't understand why she's there. That's until he notices a horde of zombies chasing Eve and Emily. Emily tells him to take care of the zombies to get more bullets, and he notices the box Eve is carrying. The girls distract the insect monsters while Sato defeats the zombies. He then uses the fire bullets to defeat the insects and they get outside the dungeon. The guy can barely believe his eyes when he sees Sato carrying Rose back. She's still badly injured and he cannot use magic to heal her wounds because of the magic storm. But Sato has a method. He uses the bullet he got from the mummy and shoots the girl, healing her back. Eve is confused, but Sato explains he didn't have time to use it inside the dungeon. Rose is fully healed back and the guy thanked them for their help. After returning to the city, Sato feels relieved and happy they managed to save her. When Emily sees him smile, she remembers her mother. Sato then mentions he was impressed with Emily's idea to get him more bullets. She dismisses it, explaining she just imitated what she saw him do before he thanked the girls for saving him, but as usual, Eve wants his carrot. The three then decide to head back home where they can all enjoy Emily's family meal. That brings the episode to an end. Things continue with Sato in a trading center selling the watermelon he harvested. Urza becomes very happy with the watermelon and asks Sato to wait for a minute while she goes away. Later, Eric appears and informs Sato that she will evaluate his merchandise. Eric takes a piece of the watermelon and is delighted by its delicious taste and refreshing texture, which makes her feel like she's on a summer beach. With the sun shining down on her, a group of people gathers around the watermelon and wants to eat from it, causing Eric to get angry. She tells them that the watermelon belongs to her. Urza then holds Sato's hand and asking him to sell the watermelon through an exclusive contract. Sato realizes that this watermelon is as popular as bamboo shoots, becoming another source of secure income. Urza informs Sato that the watermelon can be obtained on the 5th level of Tellulu Dungeon and asks if he has acquired his license. This license allows exploration of levels lower than level 6 in Dungeon. As Dungeon becomes more dangerous with every 5 levels, each country has different policies. In Sekiro, for instance, a new license is issued every 5 levels, and traders are prohibited from buying livestock in those levels unless they possess the appropriate license. Urza advises Sato to obtain the license to make things easier in the future. The scene then shifts to Sato and Emily somewhere indoors. Sato asks a man how to obtain the license, and the man inquires about Sato's accomplishments. Sato tells him that he returned with a watermelon from the 5th level of Tellulu. The man takes the watermelon and the keys and asks Sato to follow him. He reveals that this watermelon is level 6 or lower in Tellulu and will transform into a steel slime, a very solid creature that resists Sato's initial attacks. Sato uses his hand to strike the slime, but it remains unaffected. He then pulls out a gun, loads it with 2 bullets, and fires at the slime, but the bullets have no effect now. Sato then uses a frozen bullet, which manages to hit the slime, causing it to freeze and become brittle. The drastic temperature change weakens the metal and the slime explodes. Due to the conflicting temperatures, the man and Emily are surprised by Sato's exceptional abilities. The man approves Sato as a tester and grants him the license for Sekiro level 6 and below. Acknowledging his potential, he reveals that he has worked in this place for 10 years and no one has impressed him like Sato. He predicts a bright future for Sekiro because of Sato's potential. He informs Emily and Sato that preparations are needed and asks for their assistance. After a few days, we see Sato and Emily arriving at a certain location to catch tuna fish requiring 1.5 million pilos. They hide behind a rock, and Sato attempts to transform the fish into a stray. Suddenly, the fish transforms into a gorilla, causing Emily to be frightened as it's the same gorilla that attacked town. Sato calms her down and approaches the gorilla, firing a frozen bullet to immobilize it. He then climbs onto the ice and shoots the gorilla in the head, killing it quickly. Emily is relieved and joyful as Sato defeated the gorilla. Swiftly, the gorilla disappears, leaving behind regular guns and bullets. Sato is happy because he can now use 2 guns simultaneously. Emily expresses concern, advising Sato not to become evil. The scene transitioned to Sato in the trading center, where Urza informs him about a strike. A group from Adalbert has occupied the 6th level of Silicon, the only place where rice and wheat can be obtained. She informs him that if she doesn't raise the price of Sekiro rice, they won't sell to her anymore. The scene shifts to Sato walking and searching for the person responsible for the group's actions. Neptune appears before Sato and asks him what he's doing there. Sato explains that he came on request, and Neptune reveals that his group came to eliminate the Adalbert group since they've done this multiple times, causing the patience of the townspeople to run out. Sato asks Neptune to leave this matter to him and let him deal with it. The scene then moves to 3 individuals standing before Sato. They inform him that entering this level is forbidden. Sato points his guns at them, and one of the individuals calls his companions to attack Sato. He quickly incapacitates them with 2 shots, causing them to fall asleep. Neptune suddenly appears behind Sato, and Sato explains the nature of his curing bullets, which can heal wounds, but when combined they turn into sleep bullets. He used this ability on the group. Neptune is impressed by Ryder's new capability gained from having 2 guns. The scene returns to Sato and Emily where they attack the monster with a fire and ice bullet combination that transforms into a paralysis bullet, making Emily very happy. Sato continues attacking the monsters to extract flowers from them. The scene shifts back to Sato and Neptune, where Sato instructs Neptune to help carry the unconscious individuals outside. They bring the men outside and a bald man speaks about Sato, hinting at his rumored reputation. The scene transitions again to Sato and that man in an office, revealing that the man is Dungeon Chief of Sekiro named Clint Gray, who holds a significant position in Sekiro. He requests Sato's assistance as he wants to enlist him for a battle for a new dungeon against the neighboring city of Hetero in the eastern Sekiro. All the dungeon creatures possess meat as their drupes. While Hetero is known as the City of Livestock, a new dungeon was discovered on the road between Hetero and Sekiro. Notably, the drupes in this dungeon consists of half vegetables and half meat. If the vegetables are more abundant, the dungeon would belong to Sekiro. Sato asks if it's necessary to choose a city to belong to. The man becomes angry and explains that with each purchase of drupes, a tax is imposed. Ownership of the dungeons is a significant factor in the town's economic well-being. He then apologizes to Sato and takes some sugar cubes to calm down. He explains further that since vegetables and meats are extracted in equal proportions, they decided to determine ownership based on who obtains more rare drupes. Since Sato is known for his strength and high drupes percentage, he was chosen to help. The man mentions that Sato won't do this for free. Even if they lose the battle, he will receive a monetary reward, and if they win, he will be exempt from taxes on his drupes from now on. The scene shifts to Sato walking alone and talking to himself, feeling good about being recognized for his work and relied upon. He realizes that he'll need his gun, prepares specialized bullets, and plans to prepare the magic carriage and change of clothes. He senses that he's gearing up for a work trip. He then remembers his previous miserable life, but appreciates having Emily by his side now. He returns home and sits with Emily, informing her that he's going to the new dungeon called Sealand. Emily is very happy and says it's very good that he was asked to inspect dungeon. She assures him that she'll take care of the house while he's gone. Sato surprises Emily by suggesting that she goes with him. She is taken aback, saying she wouldn't be of any help there. Sato insists, and eventually she agrees. Suddenly, Eve appears angry and asks Sato about the carrots. Sato assures her that he will get enough carrots for her before he and Emily leave. The scene then transitions to Sato and Emily in the desert where they find nothing. The only things that don't turn lost are air, water, and land, except for places with a lot of people like towns and dungeons. Sato looks at Emily and asks her what she's doing. Emily explains that traveling from one town to another is tiring. She draws something cheerful on the ground, which will make the next person who comes after them happy. She finishes the drawing and Sato asks her what it is. Emily tells him it's the Lord of Beans. Beans are the energy source. Sato also draws a cute bean next to the Lord of Beans. Emily writes the phrase "you can do it" besides the drawing. They then leave the place, and at night Sato and Emily set up a tent. Emily asks Sato to fetch some water. As Sato goes to get water, he notices strange things in the tent. Since he's used to living in a house with Emily, this outdoor camping experience is quite a change. He realizes he needs to wake up early to find carrots, so he doesn't argue with Eve again. After that, Emily calls him into the tent. He's amazed by its interior. A warm lamp illuminates the tent. There's a comfortable couch and, astonishingly, a complete cooking setup is present. He enjoys a delicious pizza, astonished by how all of this could fit in a tent. Emily explains that she carried everything in her backpack, which was extremely heavy. Sato marvels at the idea of a backpack that can carry all these things. Emily mentions dessert after dinner and brings it to him, making him very happy. She tells Sato that since this is their first journey together and she was very happy, she put in extra effort. She also reveals that she's going to burn the trash rather than throw it away. To prevent it from turning into stray and powerful monsters, Sato decides to throw a piece of trash to see what happens. Suddenly, it transforms into a gigantic monster. Emily tries to hit the monster with her hammer, but nothing affects it at all. Sato asks Emily to step back and starts using a fire bullet from his gun, but it has no effect on the monster since it's weak. He decides to use both guns at the same time, firing 2 shots together, and challenges the monster. The shots combined into a powerful blast that defeats the monster. The next morning they throw carrots and witness the transformation of one into a green slime. Sato shoots at it with his gun, but misses. The bullet veers off course and hits the monster, surprising them both. They continue on to Sealand, the new dungeons. They notice the place is crowded with people from both towns sent to help. They observe a large pile of garbage and fear it might turn into monsters due to the number of people around. Suddenly, a girl arrives and effortlessly burns the garbage using fire magic. Sato and Emily realize she's responsible for collecting and burning the trash. Amazed by her magical power, some people bring another pile of garbage, but the girl seems tired and struggles to burn it all. Sato notices the exhaustion under her eyes, which reminds him of how people who worked over 100 extra hours a month used to look. They approach her to check on her. She tells them to bring any garbage they have, but Emily suggests she rests for a while. The girl admits she can't burn all the trash immediately due to her fatigue. She attempts to use her powers again, but collapses and Sato catches her. That brings the episode to an end. Things continue. Sato quickly grabs the girl and tells her she should stop using magic because of her condition. But the girl gets up, explaining that everyone is depending on her. The girl walks toward the garbage pile like a zombie, and Sato starts reloading his gun. He has already seen too many people who focus so much on their work, to the point where their health crashes, some even die. The girl replies this is the only thing she can do while casting the spell, but it fails. Yet Sato doesn't want to see her go through this, so he gets up and combines his healing bullets to put the girl to sleep. Emily is confused about what he just did, but he explains he simply put the girl into a deep sleep. A few hours later, the girl wakes up in Emily's tent and walks out. She sees the sunset and gets worried that she failed at her job. She rushes back and sees the garbage turning into Frankenstein's trays. She's already late, but Sato is in the back, shooting the several strays with his fire bullets, defeating them one by one. She's impressed by his skills and suddenly hears Emily tell a queue of people to bring their trash and pile it up. Sato is only doing this because he's getting extra bullets. Emily then notices the girl is there and tells her to go back and rest. Sato tells her to let them handle the garbage and asks if she woke up because she's hungry. They return to their tent where Emily prepares a full meal for them. Before eating, Sato tells her to not worry about their job because they place their tent near the dumpster. The girl accepts their hospitality and tries Emily's soup. She sheds tears while complimenting the delicious meal. Emily tells the girl that she's similar to Sato. He also sheds tears when tasting something delicious, and he also pushes himself too hard. The girl laughs at the remark and Emily asks her name. The girl introduces herself as Celeste and explains a bit more about the current situation. The dungeon drops are tax-free until the ownership is decided. That explains why so many adventurers are there, and as a result, trash production increases every day. Sato thinks this is too much for her to handle alone and promises to help her when he has time. Celeste thanked him and mentioned this is the only work she can do. Sato is confused about it, but she falls asleep before explaining. Sato mentions that she fell asleep because she felt relieved because she can now share her burden. The next day comes by and Celeste uses her skill to burn the trash. Sato feels like her magic is more powerful than yesterday, plus she looks more pretty. After finishing her job, Celeste thanks them for giving her a chance to rest. This allowed her to recover her magic and she became stronger. Emily invites her to stay in their tent to rest and eat because they already know she will overwork again. Celeste feels happy but politely rejects it because doesn't want to take advantage of them. Sato explains the tent was made from Emily's unique skill and convinces her to accept. Since Sato and Emily got stuff to do, they tell Celeste to return to the tent by lunchtime. Both walk around checking all the stalls in the area so to notices Emily paying attention to some accessories being displayed and asks the shop owner why he is here. The old man explains that adventure is by them as gifts for their wives. Emily finds the accessories beautiful and Sato asks if she likes this sort of stuff. She answers that rings are beautiful and feel special, but she doesn't have the money to buy one. Sato then heads to Sekiro's headquarters to check the map of the dungeon and learn about the drop floors. The dungeon is divided into 10 floors and the drop type depends on the floor. If it's an odd-numbered floor then it drops vegetables, but if it's even then it drops meat. For that reason they decided to make the competition all about which city gets the most rare drops. Sato understands and gets ready to go inside the dungeon, but he doesn't need to because the adventurers will capture the rare monsters and call for him to defeat them. Sato is confused, but this is the most efficient way they promise to pay him, so they just want him to focus on getting rare drops. Sato realizes they have built their strategy around something that would never happen in his old world. Suddenly a messenger arrives, revealing they captured a rare monster on the first floor. Sato gets inside the dungeon and finds out that he can only kill the monster if they're in the custody of their city's adventurers. Sato understands, but notices a suspicious group watching him. Turns out they're from the city they're competing against. One of the members of that group is a famous adventurer named Eugene who has a rank F when it comes to plant drop rates. Sato is confused. Why would they bring an F rank drop rate adventurer to this competition? The director explains that Eugene is here to disturb them during the competition. Their competitor wants Eugene to kill rare plant monsters to reduce Sekiro's chances of winning the competition because Eugene won't drop anything. Sato realizes the situation and decides to kill the rare monster before Eugene tries to do something. The adventurer holds the monster in place and Sato shoots it, but the monster doesn't die and gets stronger. The old man accompanying Eugene thinks this monster has a core hidden in its body. If they don't destroy it, it won't die. At the same time, Eugene reveals his special ability allows him to know where the core is. The monster gets strong enough to the point where the adventurers cannot hold him in place. The monster starts bouncing around and the old man tells Eugene to defeat it since he got the chance. Eugene starts chasing it around and finally gets a chance to slay it. However, Sato shoots his tracking bullet upward and the bullet changes its path to hit the monster's hidden core. Eugene is confused and asks if Sato can also see the core. Sato bluffs saying that he can, but in fact it's just his bullet doing the job. After stepping outside, the director gives Sato his payment and reveals that the soybean sprouts are also his. Sato wasn't expecting to receive so much money, but he now wishes to repeat this more times. He ends up returning to the tent at night and notices Celeste already sleeping. Emily asks about his day and gives him a drink. Sato explains how their competitor is trying to sabotage them during the competition. He also reveals that he got off early, but he made a stop to buy something. He pulls out a box and opens. Emily sees the rings he really loved this morning and calls it beautiful, yet Sato asks if she would like to accept the ring. She gets embarrassed because the ring is expensive. Sato explains she helps him every day, plus he thinks that she's special to him. She accepts and he puts it on her ring. She tears down, revealing that this is the gift that made her the happiest. The next day, they enter the dungeon to check Emily's stats. She's surprised that every drop rate has a +1 next to it. She asks if that's because of Sato's power, forcing him to explain everything. Basically, the old man had more than a ring, which made Sato curious about which type of stray would appear. So he spent 1 million pyro on a ring to convert it into a monster and check its drop. Turns out he dropped the same ring and noticed that it had a skill attached. They decided to test the ring's skill by making her defeat a monster on the 2nd level. Family gets a chicken breast and becomes happy because she wanted to drop meat at least once. She explains her meat drop rate is F, that some dungeons forbid F rank drop raters from entering, but this ring makes her drop E ranked. Suddenly they hear some noise and see a group of adventurers trying to deal with a rare monster. The monster quickly turns around and hits Emily, damaging her for half of her HP. Sato gets angry and prepares to shoot him, but he suddenly hears the old man that was accompanying Eugene, telling Sato to shoot. He wants to take advantage of Sato's high drop rate to defeat the monster and get drops for the competition. Sato realizes as the plan and saves his guns. Sato notices a guy beside the old man and knows that he must have a high meat drop rate. He's unsure of what he should do, but Emily takes off the ring and dashes toward the monster. Sato loads his gun with freezing bullets and shoots to restrain the monster. Emily uses this chance to defeat the monster, dropping absolutely nothing and forcing their competitors to retreat, so that gives the ring back to her and thanked her. She explains that she remembered their conversation last night, so she took the ring off to drop nothing. After returning, Sato meets the HQ director, who praises him for his quick thinking on the 2nd dungeon floor. Sato explains it was Emily's idea and the director mentions that she got rewarded for helping them, but they now have a problem. Turns out their competitor will triple their number of F-rank vegetable droppers to fill the vegetable floors. The director thinks they must do the same, but Sato wants to end the competition today. He wants to hunt all the rare monsters on the vegetable floors. The director thinks this might work, and Sato tells him to raise the reward for finding rare monsters to 10 million. The director thinks it's too much because they might not get a rare drop and they will lose money. Sato tells him that he has a 100% chance of getting a rare drop and promises to pay him back 10 million if he doesn't droop anything. The director accepts the deal and they prepare everything. In a few hours, Sato defeats all types of monsters from huge butterflies, panda bears, mad golems, and now he must kill a 9-headed hydra. The director explains that he needs to defeat all heads before they can regenerate, so Sato decides to use his tracking bullets to defeat them all at the same time. The director is all happy because he's pretty sure that they will win this competition. The director decides to report to the HQ, but Sato stays behind because he wants to make some extra money. He steps into a room and ends up being surrounded by several men. Eugene appears and tells that Sato has gone too far. Turns out all these guys have F-rank drop rates and were hired to stop the city of Sekiro from winning the competition. Yet Sato appeared and ruined their plans, so they won't be paid. Eugene signals to a mage who casts a magic circle under Sato. This circle has the same effect as a magic storm. So Eugene says that Sato won't be able to use his gun. How naive. Eugene promises Sato a little beating, not enough to take his life. The men then gang up on Sato, just to find out his S-rank strength and speed. Sato then pulls out his guns and shots to warn Eugene that his weapons aren't magic. He then shoots every guy he just defeated with his healing bullet and explains that he doesn't use magic to shoot, but his bullets are pretty much magical. Sato then reveals he understands their viewpoint and won't blame them if they continue to attack him. He will beat them up again and heal them if needed. He then returns to the tent where Emily and Celeste welcome him back. That brings the episode to an end. The story continues with Emily had prepared a full meal for him and even had more. Celeste congratulated him on his job, but he explained that the dungeon didn't belong to them yet. Emily comes in with some cake, impressing Celeste, who couldn't understand how she made it with a campfire. But they get even more surprised when she mentions she also prepared ice cream. The next day, Sato goes outside and sees Celeste burning the garbage. Yet he notices she is trying to use a huge spell burn the remains, but she ends up losing consciousness and falls into Sato's arms. He uses a healing bullet on her, but she pushes him away because their faces are close. She slaps her face because she doesn't understand what she's feeling right now. Sato asks why she used a powerful spell, and she reveals it's the only one she can use. She reveals she cannot use low-level magic, that's why she's working as a garbage burn. More garbage is delivered and she prepares to burn it, but Sato stepped up and shot it with this fire bullet. She is confused, but he explains that he now has free time and he will help her. She shyly thanked his help, but there was a problem. There was too much garbage to burn. Celeste explained that today was a special day because the dungeon master had appeared. Emily explained that it's a dungeon boss who appears every few months. Celeste elaborates, revealing that people cannot get inside the dungeon, causing them to eat more food to relieve stress. Emily tries to cheer Celeste up, saying adventurers will form a group soon to defeat the boss. Sato tells her to rest and promises to take care of the remaining garbage for the day. She tries to refuse it. Yet Sato explains that she works too hard and passes out every day. Emily takes Celeste back to the tent and Sato burns all the garbage. However, there's another huge pile of garbage when he wakes up the next day. Emily tells him to relax because the team responsible for dealing with the boss should already be assembled. Sato decides to check with them just to make sure Celeste will be able to finally rest. Yet she's confused and doesn't understand why he's so kind to her. Emily simply explains Sato helps anyone who needs help. Sato meets Neptune while he is checking on the boss's situation. His group is supposed to be the one that will defeat the boss, so Sato simply tells him to hurry up and do it as soon as possible because Celeste is having problems with the garbage, yet Neptune reveals that he cannot. Turns out that the two cities had an agreement in place to assemble a joint team and defeated Sakura Chosen's team, but Hetero City isn't interested in picking a group. Sato is confused as to why they aren't rushing to deal with the situation. Turns out that if a dungeon master sticks around for a long time, he will be able to change the dungeon. The item drops could change too, so their plan is to stall enough time just for the possibility of the dungeon only dropping meat. Sato gets annoyed and decides to defeat the boss on his own, but they cannot allow him because there are certain rules. He needs a group of 3 or more adventurers with at least 1 rank A stat. Sato decides to ask Neptune to join him, but he refuses to because of the contract he signed with. Sato walks away to find adventurers who can help him, but that's literally mission impossible because everyone is there to profit from tax-free drops. Sato returns to his tent, disappointed, and meets Emily. He's confused about why she's holding her weapon and she reveals that she will come with him to defeat the dungeon master. Sato explains they cannot because they need 1 more member. Yet Emily already knew about it and invited Celeste. She explains that she found someone else to take care of the garbage for her. Turns out it was Eugene and all the adventurers who were beaten up by Sato. The girls want to move inside, but Sato explains everyone needs to have at least 1 rank A stat. But that's not a problem because Celeste reveals that she has 2 ranks A stats. Her drop rates are awful though. She wants to help Sato with this problem because he will soon return to Sakura and they will part away. The group then decides to move into the dungeon, but they're surprised that it seems empty. Emily reveals that all monsters disappear once the boss appears, and for that reason there are no drops. Suddenly the ceiling starts to break, forcing Sato to rescue the girls. When the dust fades, they see the dungeon boss Sato and Emily rush forward to defeat it. But the monster has a barrier to protect himself against Emily's attack. She's projected back and the horse approaches her. Sato tries to protect her by combining his bullets, but they still cannot penetrate the barrier. Emily retreats and Sato is still confused about this barrier. He asks Les for his help while he reloads his guns and she casts her infernal level 3 magic. The fire surrounds the bighorn's barrier and holds him in place. Sato decides to combine his fire bullets into a more powerful one and manages to break the barrier. Emily then tries to strike a blow, but only pushes the boss back. Sato thinks this is his chance and shoots again, but the boss activates the barrier. Emily is confused, but Sato knows this could work. He can use his bullet fusions to destroy the barrier and the girls will follow up with some chain of attacks. His plan works, but the boss is still alive despite taking tons of damage. They decide to not give up and continue trying until they notice the boss creating a magic circle on the ground. Sato knows they must stop it, and Emily charges it, but she loses all strength when she steps into the magic circle. The system reveals that Sato's stats drop 2 ranks, yet Emily gets up and breaks the barrier with her hammer. She ends up being projected back, but assures that she's fine. She reveals that all her stats drop by 2 ranks, but they're more worried about Celeste. She depends on her rank stats to keep up her mono levels. Sato cannot let her push herself any further and tells Emily to take care of Celeste. He's determined to defeat the boss all by himself, but Celeste apologizes because she's slowing him down. He thanked for her help because she did more than he asked, but he also mentions that she's more important than her skills. This was the first time she ever heard those words until now. Every person she met only cared about her skills. Even her boss would complain about her inefficiency. They complained about her collapsing while pushing herself to finish the job. She's been working hard, but nobody has ever recognized it. People have always been putting her down because she can only use level 3 magic, and she accepted those words as natural. But Sato was the first person who actually cared about her and was the first to approve her as a person. Sato walks forward to defeat the boss, but Celeste won't stand down. She got up and decided to give her all, so that is having a hard time against the boss until he notices Celeste casting her magic skill. Her fire destroys the boss barrier and Sato uses Emily's hammer to destroy the horns. Without the horns, there's no more boss. Sato quickly celebrates, but even focuses on Celeste, who's collapsed on the grounds. She's relieved to find out the boss was defeated, but gets surprised when Sato mentions they couldn't do it without her. She tears down relieved that she was recognized by someone. Yet Sato suddenly gives her the boss drops. She tries to refuse it, but Sato and Emily tell her to accept it. Upon taking them, Celeste hears a system message, mentioning she is now able to use level 1 magic. She looks at Sato confused and he explains that he already talked to Emily about it, and both things Celeste take it. Emily thanked her for the help and Celeste started crying. They return to report to Duke, who cannot believe they already defeated the boss. Neptune's companions appear and tell Sato that he was blessed with amazing companions. He thanked them and asked about Neptune's whereabouts. They don't give him an answer, but the scene changes to Neptune. He's threatening Hetero's representative because he misses his chance to fight with Sato. The next day, we see Celeste happily burning a small pile of garbage with her new magic. Sato calls out her name, and she excitedly explains she never expected to use level 1 magic in her life. She mentions the dungeon now belongs to Sekiro and asks when he will return home. He answers tomorrow. The two seem apprehensive, but they suddenly tell each other similar words at the same time, so they invited her to come with them and she mentioned she wanted to come with him. Both get shy after realizing their intentions and Sato says that he sees her as his party member. Celeste happily agrees to join them, but Sato still needs to talk to Emily about it. Turns out Emily was listening to everything and immediately approves it because they will become a family. That brings the episode to an end. The story continues with the three return to Sekiro, their home city, where everyone is stunned by her beautiful face. Sato shows her the town around and wonders how Urza doing. They quickly meet Urza, happy to see Sato but shocked to see another possible love rival around. Sato quickly introduces the two girls, explaining he will create his party group. Urza is super worried because of Celeste's beauty. She quickly dismisses the subject when asked, mentioning that she heard the rumors of what Sato has done during his mission. She mentions that she's happy that one of her customers is becoming famous and tells him to go to her shop because she needs to ask him a favor about the Harvest Festival. She runs away, yet Sato is confused about the festival. Emily reveals she has no idea about it. Despite being a native of that world and city, yet Celeste knows everything. Turns out it's a festival they do every year, where they gather up dungeon drops and put them on display. Sato doesn't find it impressive, but Emily explains they simply turn the drops into strays in an arena and kill them. The only goal is to basically show off the drop, the monster, and the adventurous skill, but Celeste asks why the hell are they sitting in a barren land? Sato explains he came here to upgrade his speed to rank, as he then headed to the 4th floor where he found out that the floor would improve his vitality. So they're currently waiting outside for the seeds to turn into strays so that he can find out which new bullet he will get from those monsters. Celeste gets worried about it, thinking it's dangerous. The seeds turn into mummies and Sato quickly beats them to their coffins. He quickly picks up the bullets and finds they have a binding ability. Celeste is impressed because she thought strays couldn't drop stuff. Well, they only drop if you have S-rank drop rates. Sato asks her to keep it a secret, yet suddenly they hear an explosion in the city. They rush there and find out a rare drop turned into a stray. Turns out it's the king of all pumpkins. Emily quickly rushes forward with her hammer while Sato starts shooting and Celeste uses her fire magic. The stray manages to resist not only the fire and bullets, but also Emily Thor hammer. Sato rushes forward and tries to push the stray away, but it barely moves back. He gets the idea to throw it into the air and use his new bullets. He shoots the stray, who gets restrained by some magic. He then combines the two binding bullets to find out the new skill. Turns out the stray turns black and disappears. Where have I seen this? The item that drops this time is a pouch. Sato quickly goes back to check on Emily to find she's safe, but she's sad. Her hammer is broken, she's not worthy, Sato couldn't care less. In fact, he's simply hyped out mentioning they will buy a new hammer for her. Not only that, but it will be even more OPs than this one. Emily doesn't want him to waste money on her, so she tries to fix it back only to break it for good women. Without much chance, they decide to buy her a new hammer the next day, yet they have a surprise visitor the next day. This guy is Smith, a weapons dealer. Turns out he heard that Emily's hammer broke down yesterday, so he wants to offer her a new hammer. Everyone is surprised, yet this guy is smart. Turns out Sato's party became famous after what they did in Sealand Dungeon, so he basically wants to sponsor Emily by giving her their best hammer. She immediately accepts and gets to know that she can ask for anything. Meanwhile, Sato goes back to Nihonium, where he meets the old scammers. Yes, the one selling the princess heir. Sato asks about the business and finds out they're doing pretty bad after all, it's a scam. Not really. Turns out people are simply tired of boxes filled with air. Sato asks if they cannot sell something else. Turns out they didn't even consider the most basic question. The guy asks what they could sell. Sato thinks for a second, and gives the best possible answer. Just sell the princess's underwear. The old man finds this as a game changer. Yet Sato stops him from getting arrested and tells him to sell something like a ring based on the princess's tastes. In the next second, they heard the princesses scream while being attacked by several skeletons. Sato quickly shoots them all and the princess thanks him for saving her. They revealed they love the ring idea and the princess explains she wants to give her first to him. This sound sucks, but she's mentioning the ring. Back with Emily and Thor Hammer V2, she starts specifying her needs and what she desires. Suddenly Eve rushes into the house asking about Sato. Emily explains Sato's schedule for the day and Eve runs to find him. He's now in Tallulah's dungeon, happy that his new pouch automatically picks and stores dropped items. He will use it today to get more money. Sato decided to get some bamboo shoots for the day and sell them to Urza. They talk about the Harvest Festival and Urza explains that she wants him to collect drops that difficult to get. Basically she wants him to get rare drops. She explains that she will pay for them, which Sato accepts. She gives him a list of rare drops that they are missing. The other store clerk interrupts their conversation to pay Sato, who notices that there's more small change than usual. The clerk apologizes and explains the guy in charge of the dungeon that drops money was arrested for corruption. Money isn't real, so basically they're short in money. Sato is like seems logical. Wait, money is dropped in a dungeon that gives him another idea. Turn money into a stray and kill it. The only thing he didn't expect was that it would turn into a bird and fly away. He tries to shoot it, but the bird dodges everything. He then changes to his chasing bullet and manages to kill it. The drop goes directly to his new pouch, and he finds out that he dropped a potion that boosts his plant drop rate by 3 ranks for 10 minutes. Of course, that sounds pretty amazing, but he's already S rank. Suddenly, Eve comes running and drops him to the floor, asking for his carrot. He goes to the dungeon and gives her carrots, telling her to ask her party mates to get her carrots. She reveals that she disbanded the group because they wanted different things. As a rabbit, she only cared about carrots, yet they wanted to drop other things. She also says that it's okay because she's strong. Plus, rabbit people know that parties are a hassle. Turns out, even as a background story, she was still a little girl, but she was already strong. She belonged to a party group of rabbit people, but she hated vegetables. She only wanted to eat meat. The group annoyed her to eat vegetables and she ran away because they were annoying. She walked around the dungeon alone and defeated a big monster. Yet the drop was unusual. It was a little boy instead of the usual drop. The boy was confused, especially when he saw a monster behind Eve's. She explained things to the boy and defeated the monster with the single chops. The boy was impressed and asked how she did that and if he could also do it. He taught the boy for the next few hours and they found a way to make him defeat the monster, but this time the drop was a carrot. The boy picked it up, but he told him to throw it away because she hates vegetables. Yet the boy split the carrot into 2 and shoved it into her mouth. For the first time Eve eats a delicious carrot and decided to ask the boy to join her party. Yet seconds later, the boy started to shine and disappeared, returning to his original world since the day Eve realized she loved delicious carrots and that she will always be alone. If you look, Sato looks like the little boy. He dismisses her story, explaining that if she loves carrots, she should drop her off, but she can't because her drop rate is the so carrots taste bad. That gives Sato the idea to make her try the potion. He convinces her to drink it, and she realizes that her drop rank increases from D to A. She defeats a slime to try it and gets a big and delicious carrot. She's happy not only because of the carrot, but also because she's the one who defeated the monster to get it. She asks Sato where he bought the potion, but he explains that nobody sells it because it's a special item only he can get. Her heart shatters after listening to those words, but she quickly gets an idea and gets on her knees begging to join Sato's party group. Sato mentions that she said she hated party members. Eve quickly dismisses it, explaining party members are the best thing in the world. They can give them potions and tasty carrots. She even mentions she will do anything to join. Yes, anything, but Sato knows she will annoy the hell out of him until he says yes, so he simply says yes. She immediately gets up, hugs him and tells him that she loves him. Upon returning home, Emily is happily showing off Thor Hammer version 2 until she notices Eve close to Sato. He simply explains Eve joined them, making Emily happy and shocking Celeste's heart. That brings the episode to an end.